Gamedev. Hello and welcome to the first episode of Knock Knock Gamedev. My name is Peter and today we talk about game development with Dr.Mirko Seithe, creator of the BossConstructor and Kubifaktorium. The video version is available on YouTube and audio you can listen in Apple Podcast or Spotify. Leave a comment below what question you would ask Mirko, which I didn't ask. Don't forget to subscribe and more stuff is coming.
Yeah, just tell some small word about yourself.
Okay, so my name is Mirko Seithe. I'm a semi-professional indie game developer living in Bonn, Germany. Like I said, my first game was BossConstructor, which was released on Steam about 2 years ago. I'm currently working on Kubifaktorium, which was kickstarted in the last year successfully. And a bit about my background. So I actually studied computer science. So that's what I did after school. And afterwards, I actually made a doctor in economics. So this is one bit of an odd choice, maybe.
This was what interested me. It's economics, and then you game developer. And actually, why you decide to become a game developer after economics and so on? So, especially indie, it's not so many money inside.
Yeah. So to be honest, when I look back at my major life decisions, it was all sort of random, maybe I was easily influenced by the things I saw and that interested me at every point of time. But I think game development, or especially playing games, but also programming, software development, were always things that I found very interesting and that I've done since I was a little kid. So, actually the first computer I used was a Texas Instrument 99, so a really old computer and with really simple games. But I always found it fascinating and interesting to work on these type of projects. And
it's also really interesting because for me it was, I developed games from school. In school we have informatics, and it was with QBasic. We made some small games over there. Some really not so good looking, but at least they work. You need to answer some question correct or something like that.
The first games I made were really horrible and really broken. So I had one game which I decided to write in Visual Basic, which was the worst choice ever. So it was running at a half frame per second or so. So I was trying to camouflage it by giving it a radar effect where it scans from top to bottom. Just because it was so slow, it was really terrible. And I'm glad I could put that behind me.
So basically, when you how you start and how was your way to the game development actually, step by step? Can you describe it? Okay, you are a child and you want to make some small games or in school or something like that, and then usually people just forget about it. I just will play some games in the free time, and then I have I will be a bank manager or something like that. It's easy.
I guess the only real difference is that I sort of stuck with it and I continued making small little projects. All of these projects didn't really go very far. Most of them I just abandoned at some point. But I think with every project I sort of expanded my knowledge and tried something new and learned to be a better programmer and developer. And I think BossConstructor was the first game where I was I will actually finish this and make it a real game and a complete game and try to earn some money with it. And I think despite the many errors I made, it was quite successful.
Basically you will say just try, and then made something in the end.
I think there are several different ways. I mean, you can have a very structured way where you do like an internship, or where you do a university course of something you want to do. But I think also just trial and error, and constantly trying to improve yourself, and it is also a very viable way. And I think today there are so many different ways, just because there's so much knowledge out there. You have like YouTube tutorials, you have discussion boards, you have example projects which you can learn from. And
it's just like just go to the website of Unity, you have over there so many tutorials inside already. And I mean, you can just buy for €9 this course in Udemy or something like that. It's like easy way, I guess. But anyhow, it's like, I think it's also not so easy job like usually you think it is. It's like, if like I play games well, then I will make the games well. I guess that's not correct. Is it?
Well, it depends. I think it is very easy to technically make a game, right? To have a ball and give it like a physics behavior, and you control the ball and do something. And I think technically that is a game, of course. But I think in order to make a game that people will actually play or buy even, there's a very high threshold regarding quality which you need to reach. And reaching that level and reaching it in a way that is economical, in the sense that the amount of time you put into it is in a good relation to what you earn with it. It takes a lot of time, I think, until you can reach that level of proficiency in doing that.
But anyhow, I guess you need to try like hard if you want to, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like 37 years old now, and I've been doing this little project since I was a kid, so I think it just took like a long time.
The Constructor, sorry. It's like, actually, I didn't Google. As I understood, it's like also some sort of, not RTS or something, like a strategy game. Can you describe it, and how long it take you to finish this game actually?
Yeah, so BossConstructor is a game where you construct your own spaceship. So there are a number of different parts you can collect over the course of the game, and you stick them together Lego style and you get a spaceship. And
it's more like a sci-fi, or it's like a more natural, realistic?
It's like sci-fi. It's a top-down shooter basically. So you have like this big ship you build in the course of the game, and you hunt other ships, gather their parts, and stick them onto your own ship, and so on. And like from start to finish, it was over 10 years. It was like I think the equivalent of 2 full-time years, but it was spread over a very long period of time. So they were like...
So if you take just 2 years, you will finish it in 2 years.
Exactly,
by yourself.
Exactly. And probably even less nowadays, since I'm more experienced, but back then there was a lot of trial and error, and I changed a lot of the design. And
you also stick it to like a Unity engine, or it was some different?
BossConstructor was written in Java. So I think there was a very early prototype which used Java and GDK as a graphics library, which was not a good idea. And then later on I switched to another library, but it was still in Java. I think nowadays doing something like that in Unity or Unreal or so is easier. It is easier to create a good professional result. But I think those didn't exist 10 years ago, or at least not in the shape we have today.
Of course, 10 years ago, I guess it's like more. What was really challenging for you to create you struggle some?
Yeah, so I think the first major problem was the long time. So to remain interested in a project for 10 years is like really hard. So there are periods where you're no longer interested maybe in a specific genre, or where you have other projects which seem more interesting now. And sometimes it is hard to stay motivated in such a long long-lasting project thing. Then engine was definitely a problem. Even then, this Java engine and library which I use is not so common.
I mean, even now, I guess it's like with Java, it will be really difficult to program some games.
And it is also not so widespread in the market, so we often have like people who have technical problems because of that. So, for example, they have a new GPU and it isn't supported yet, and so on. So that was a bit annoying.
And you still have a support for this game in Steam?
Yeah, actually, I released a patch last week, actually. So 2 years after release. So when it was released, afterwards I did 3 bonus DLCs, which were free, which just added a few more modules, a few more gameplay elements, and so on. And it's the last one.
It's quite fair, actually, for the players, I guess.
Thank you. Yeah,
I mean, usually it's like you need to pay for such DLC and so on, and it's like a practice. I mean, just players hate it. I mean, I understand also the developers, they need to spend some time for it, so they also want some money from it. And like for players, but this one concept is also quite fair.
I think if it is DLC, which is clearly in addition to the project, I think it's not a big deal, and it's a pretty fair model. Like if you take things out of the game and make it incomplete and then sell it later, I think that is a problem.
Yeah, like EA doing it right now. Sometimes. But I don't know, maybe it's not so good to ask, but like how many copies you sell in BossConstructor?
It's just like a middle 5-digit number. It was quite well. So despite all the mistakes I made, and I mean there were more mistakes than ones I mentioned. Okay. So for example, I didn't do real marketing or advertisement. So I think what I can say is that if it would have sold a bit better, then I could have already made it my main job.
So you have still the main job, like, and you
exactly
doing on site, like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So at home I work on my games. Exactly. So, but I'm pretty confident that with Kubifaktorium I will actually make enough so that I can turn it into a full-time
job. So you have
job.
like already a good base of fans of this game.
Well, I mean, I had the Kickstarter campaign last year, which was a good indicator. And I mean, I can track like how easy it is for me to get people to wishlist it. So how many wishlist entries I have on Steam already, and there are many articles which allow you to sort of estimate how many of these people will buy the game actually later on. You can also look at competition, like competing products, and estimate how well they have done. Yeah, I mean, obviously you're always a bit biased judging your own game and your own chances, but I'm fairly optimistic that. But just because this genre of base building colony strategy games, there are not so many games coming out every year. So it is a
I agree.
Market.
It's like usually it's like some, I don't know, arcade or adventure or indie 2D platformer. It's like they release almost every day, and
it's really funny. Like there was literally an article on Gamasutra, I think, why you should make an indie platformer. Yeah. And it is really the go-to genre for indie developers.
I think the strategy game was really popular in the 2000, something like that, like in the beginning, 2000, 2001, like, or 1999. It was really popular over there. RPG, like Diablo style, or RTS, some like a Command and Conquer or something like Civilization was really popular over there, and then it was released. And now it's like, I guess we just get more like developers inside, and it's like almost every day just release some small games or any other game. Like every month we right now have some like a big top one game from some major studio, and then just indie also, like a bunch of them, like a bucket. But
I mean, I guess so when you make a game, the question is like, do you make something you enjoy making, Right? Or do you like to make a game that you like to play? Or do you make a game that other people want to buy? Right? So obviously if it matches up, it's like perfect. But I think many indie developers come from a background where they grew up with like Super Mario and so on, and like really have good memories of platformers. It's also relatively easy to make platformers because they're like ready-made frameworks. They just insert your graphics and so on.
And a lot of assets already existing they can use.
Yeah.
Or it's easy also to draw some assets actually.
Yeah. But I think the bar there is really, really high. I mean, like Orient the Blind Forest or Dead Cells or so. But there are a few games, of course, which make the cut and which are very successful. But I think there's a huge amount of games which are not bad, which are okay, but which are completely under the radar in that genre.
Basically, I want to ask how the Kubifaktorium came into your mind. Like, it was also like 10 years ago you think about it, or it was like a just recent one idea?
I guess originally it came about as a combination of games I really enjoy playing myself. So
which one?
I like the Settlers, the original Settlers games, like Anno, like Gnomoria, which is like a Dwarf Fortress light game. Factorio is also really nice, or RimWorld. I mean, there are many different games which sort of influenced me personally, and which I...
And this like a graphic style, where you
voxel art style?
Yeah, why you choose this one exactly?
So I think my strength is in software development or in programming and coding and so on. It is probably not in graphics and design, so I wanted to make an art style that is relatively easy to make, but still looks sort of good. And I think voxel style is really, really efficient in that regard, because making a voxel model, even in animation, is relatively simple to learn. I mean, it's not trivial, but you can get there even if you are not like a super experienced artist. And you immediately have like a 3D model you can work with. You can have different shader effects. You can have ambient occlusion and lighting and so on. Yeah. So even if you have relatively simple models, you can make it look pretty good. And that is one reason. The other reason is that I want to have modding in the game. So it is already possible to do some modding, but I want to add Steam Workshop later on. And I think this voxel style makes it much easier for players and other people to add their own objects and things and animals and so on to the game, rather than I would have them make it in like Blender and trick the model and so on. I think that would
it will be also Constructor inside the game. You will implement it.
Not directly inside the game, but there are free voxel editors out there, and like the data is just an XML file. You can just use a text editor and just copy it in a folder, and then it will show up in the game.
Oh, okay.
So there's no editor in-game, but you will be able to make them relatively easily. Exactly. And then as a player, subscribe and download it from the Steam Workshop.
Okay. Another question about Kubifaktorium. Do you make a game design document before? Like a professional do it? Or it's
It's funny that you say it like that. Actually, I did one.
I mean, not professional in professional ways.
No.
Like, I don't want to like say.
No.
It's like a big studio.
I get what you mean. And I think it's funny because my motivation for doing it was like, want to feel like big game developers. Like now we are professional. Like now we do like a design document and make everything like proper and neat and tidy and so on. So I did one. I also maintained it for some time. but in the end, now it is pretty outdated and I don't use it anymore.
Okay.
I think a design document is pretty important if you are working in a team with many other people. So, for example, if you have like graphic artists, they need to know ahead of time what assets they need to create, for example. So, in that case, that is a very different thing. And also, if you develop something with other people, everybody needs to be on the same page, and you need to have like written documentation of what you agreed on and so on. So, there's a lot of other motivation behind it. Apart from that, I find it very hard to imagine what the game will be like in a few months. It's very hard for me to write down like, there's this mechanic and this and this and this, and it will play like this. So I have a hard time imagining that. So instead, I actually only plan like on a weekly or monthly basis. So very short term. I see like what is the game lacking at the moment, how could I improve it.
So you just implement, and for example, if you dislike it, you delete.
Yeah, actually yes. So one advantage.
Or it's like a not working mechanic and you just like, bye bye.
Actually, just today I deleted one mechanic of the game. So I think that is one advantage of having a relatively small team. So it is very easy to prototype something or add something to the game. But I'm also not very attached to something. So if it turns out to be too complicated or not add anything to the game, I will then remove it later on.
And how small is the team actually? You and
so I do the programming, game design, most of the graphical asset creation, and also the business aspect like marketing, advertising, and most of the community management.
Economic aspects.
Yeah.
So public relations also.
Yeah, actually, none of these are really taught when you study economics. It's at least not. So I should say, like in Germany, we have BWL, which is Betriebswirtschaftslehre, which is focused on like what companies do, and VWL, which is Volkswirtschaftslehre, which focuses on like macroeconomics and politics and inflation and behavior and stuff like that, and
you study
the wrong one. No, just kidding. It was actually quite interesting, but like for this part, maybe a bit more of the other one.
But anyway, I guess it's economical aspects of the game industry for you more easy to some person from outside.
Exactly. So I do some outsourcing. So ideally, I would like to do more. What I currently do is I have Ruby from this meetup who does QA and a bit of design consultancy. I have Carl, who is my community manager and who does like trailers and things like that. And I have Moritz, who does the music, or at least some of the music. Probably forgetting some people here. But I have a few people I work with.
So it's like freelance most of all. You like on a regular basis, and other people is freelance.
Exactly. So, like ideally, I would like to outsource more, but I find it really hard to do. Because
I guess it's like a struggle to explain this person what you need directly.
Exactly.
It's like, I need this stuff, like for this designer, for example, and he's like showing you the different what you know. Think about it.
Exactly.
And then it's like you need to explain again and again, and it's like more time for you.
Especially if you're not like in the same room, but over Skype every few weeks and so on. Like it's nice, but it's a bit of a struggle, I guess.
I guess it's not working so well in the game industry, like this freelance stuff, like because also like your concept sometimes changing. And for example, you already pay for these assets or something like a model, and you like, I will not use it anymore. You already paid for them for freelance, and then you need to do another one, and it's like,
I mean, I mean, it may also be a personal thing that is just hard for me to exactly formulate what I want. And
Maybe.
may also contribute. But
I don't think so. Like, I guess in big studios and so on, they also have the same problems. Like, and they sit in the same building, you know, or maybe in the same room, and they like, this is not what I mentioned. Like you did. You need to rebuild it.
Yeah, probably.
So,
but maybe I can say a bit about. So since I don't have a design document, I can elaborate a bit on my typical work cycle. So I had this Kickstarter campaign last year. So about 500 people who are playing the closed alpha version now. And approximately 10% of them play every week, or like 5%. So I have like 20 people who play the game every week. And by the end of the week, I make a new patch. And before I process all the feedback I got, so there are automatic bug reports which I get. So whenever something crashed in the game, I get a stack trace and so on. Can resolve that. I also get some, personal bug reports where people write what went wrong and so on. And I also have automated tests which run every week. So so basically every week I use all the feedback I got from the last week to make a new version. And then in a given week I usually just play the game for an hour or so. Write like little pieces of paper whenever I notice something.
So basically these 20 people who play like every week, they like a Q&A also.
Partially. I mean, most of them do not really, give feedback or anything. Some do, it is very helpful. But just by playing and, generating errors in the game which are then reported, just that is already very helpful.
Yeah, because you can fix this bug.
Yeah. So I try to fix like half of the issues.
Like main platform for this game is PC?
It is Windows, Mac and Linux.
Okay, so it's like, you also have this problem with video adapters and different operation systems.
I think fortunately this has become a lot better. So I think Unity or like whatever framework you use takes care of most of these problems. They used to have problems with people with like a hugely wide resolution or something, but I think most of these types of issues are resolved by now. There are some issues occasionally that happen on Windows but not on Linux, for example. These are a bit odd, but I think most of these problems are resolvable nowadays.
A few moments later.
So, what do you think about education in university? If I will compare, for example, with self-education, as you did, and just prepare some portfolio or make your own studio, or like just to get a job inside here in the industry. If it's better to go to the university and study some like what you like, for example, their game design, like I don't know, 3D artist, 2D artist, or something like that, sound designer, or you just self-educate yourself in any, like for example Udemy course or YouTube, and you just make your own portfolio with your own games or assets, and then you go inside and say, this is my work, I want a job.
So first of all, economics not so good to university to learn game design, so we really need to work on that. But I think both ways have their own advantages and disadvantages. So when we start with like self-learning, self-motivated learning, you first of all have the obvious advantage that you can do exactly what you want. So you're not forced to learn anything which you don't find interesting. So potentially it is more motivating for you. You can also learn at your own speed. So if something is too easy for you, you can just skip it or go to something else. And I think it also allows you to specialize very well on a certain topic. So for example, if you are like really interested in like environment art, for example, you can just really focus on that, study people who make it, try to replicate things and build your portfolio that way. If you look at a university, on the other hand, you have the advantage that you have a very structured, given way of doing things, right? So basically the contract is you have these courses you take this semester, you do these things, you read these books and you make these projects and so on. And in the end, you will get a degree. And I think for many people, especially younger people, that is actually a pretty good thing. Like just to have like a clear structure to their life, which they can adhere to. Then another advantage is that you get to meet a lot of people. So you get to make friends, but you also get to meet possible people you can work with later on. Or possibly,
I guess they have like some sort of maybe, I don't know, they go to some company to have, I don't know, a meeting over there from university, or the professor just connect with someone like a really good student to some company. And so on.
For networking is also really well. So I'm not really from the industry in the sense that I work at a big company, right? So I cannot really tell what the employment criteria are there. But I would strongly suspect that the bigger the company is and the more competitive the job is you apply for, the more important it will be to have a good portfolio and to have a good focused portfolio. Now, I think what I would recommend is you don't really have to choose between university and self-teaching. I think, given that you have a long semester break and so on, I think making a university degree is like 20 hours a week, I think, like stretched over a year. And I think you have plenty of time to do both. So you can say, like, from Monday through Thursday, I do my university stuff. Then on Thursday, I do my self-teaching, like I watch tutorials, I, try to make something. And on Friday, make it a project day. Like every Friday, you work on your portfolio. If you're an artist, you make a piece, you make an artwork or improve on something, and so on. So, for example, recently I tried to improve my Blender skills a bit. So I made like every day I set aside 2 hours where I would work on a certain aspect. So one day was like experimenting with the particle system or basic modeling or, experimenting with transparency or node-based shaders and so on. So just, make your own schedule, try to learn something. So ideally what you could also try is you take some of your, how would you call them, your co-students, some of your like friends,
colleagues,
colleagues you get to know, and who are also interested in this sort of thing, and you just meet one day a week and work on a project. Just you start with very small projects, and you make increasingly more complex and interesting things. So you get to know them, you get to know how it is like to work in a team. I think over the course, like making bachelor is like 3 years or so. So if you continue to do this,
they have like some sort of, as I heard here from some students, they have like some projects like when they already after first semester they split. So somebody go to game design, someone to programming, somebody to sound design, and so on. They can make the project like a group project, they collect, for example, 3 person and they make a game already, like a prototype of the game.
I think that would be ideal. Yeah.
Networking over there, I guess, pretty good. But if you just, I don't know, finish already economics, then you're like, okay, I will self-educate myself if I want to go to game industry. You will not go to the university, I guess. After that, again, just imagine yourself again in university.
Well, I think it would not have made sense. Like if you're already 35 years old, it probably does not make sense to go back to university, because many of the skills you learn, like giving yourself a structure and learning in a structured way, and I think these are things which you also learn anyway. So you don't have to go to university to achieve that. So I guess in that case, I would also not like quit my job. Like instead, I would like maybe work 80% of the time or 60% and use the free time to work on my own projects and to increase my skill, build a portfolio, maybe start a first little game.
Yeah, why not? So let's return to crowdfunding and Kickstarter. Oh, actually, what do you think about crowdfunding? Because it was your success campaign. And the second question, should you collect now the money in 2019 via crowdfunding platform like Kickstarter, like for digital game, not card game, not board game?
So, first of all, I should say that it raised about 20,000 last year. So it was quite successful. It was not like hyper successful, like millions or so, but it was pretty decent.
Like this game comes like a cult where they collect still money already, millions over there. Like it's like something with Starship or
Star Citizen.
Star Citizen.
Yeah.
It's like a war success.
There too, so it's
and they will never release this game, I guess.
They're working on it.
I hope so. They will release. It looks promising.
I invested like $50 there, so I really hope that. I think crowdfunding is still really good and really relevant. But not for the funding part, ironically.
Oh.
So the reason for that is the following. If you want to have a successful crowdfunding campaign, you need to get people from outside the platform, so from outside Kickstarter to back your project. So, for example, a classical example is friends and family. I think that's a pretty bad one. But for example, you need to get people from Facebook via advertising, or from Twitter, or followers from Instagram or another platform, or people who bought your previous games, or some other sources, and you need to get those people to Kickstarter to support your project.
Yeah, because it was before, like when Kickstarter just started, many people just go over there daily, like to check everything.
Yeah. So
and now it's like nobody just go over there because it's sometimes it's cheating, or sometimes it's like a useless stuff over there.
But regardless of that, what you get organically on Kickstarter is actually not that much. So especially if you have no initial push from somewhere else. Now, given that you don't necessarily need to do it on Kickstarter, given that you have the way to get people to fund your project, you can also go to itch.io or Steam or whatever. So therefore, funding, I think, is not the main reason why you should do it. Instead, I think the big thing about Kickstarter is that it is a relatively low-risk way of figuring out if people are really interested in your project. So, I mean, of course, you can do market research, and by all means, you should do market research before starting a game. But in order to make a Kickstarter campaign, basically you only need a text, a trailer, some screenshots, and like maybe a small prototype of your game. And making that is way cheaper than making the complete game, of course. So basically, let's say it takes you 5 years to make the complete game and like half a year to make the prototype. Then you can just spend half the year to make the prototype, put it on Kickstarter, and figure out if there is really market interest in what you are doing. If yes, then you get funding, and it's super great. But you also get the information that people are interested. And if not, well, then you've lost maybe half a year, but you haven't lost 5 years, and you haven't invested a huge amount of money.
Sorry. like for example, if you have your game in Kickstarter and somebody just write you random comment like, "Oh, it will be nice if you add something and stuff to your game." I will found this, and you will just. But if it's like a really nice idea, you will take it, or it's like a...
So what I get a lot is it coming to Switch? Is it coming to iPhone? And so on, and so on, and so on. Well, I mean, in that case, you can just honestly say that it doesn't fit the vision I have, it wouldn't fit with the gameplay I have in mind,
so
it wouldn't fit to the session length, to the controls, and so on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I get that a lot. I mean, like 90% of the comments are always positive if I advertise the game somewhere. And among the people who are then actually following, it's like 100% positive. Of course, you always have, some toxic
I mean, like
people.
you add something like after talk with people, like just like somebody just say to you, "Nice idea." You add something to the game of some random idea from community or
not random ideas. I mean, if it is a good idea, of course I will. Yeah, and there are actually several things I've added based on what people suggested and which made sense. But I'm not adding any idea. So someone really wants horses in the game. Well, I mean, if it makes sense, and so I will add horses, but I'm not just adding any animal somebody wants to see.
For sure. I was just asking, like, if it was some really good idea, like from your community, for example, and it was like, you say, "Oh, why I didn't think about it?" And just didn't add.
Definitely.
Because, like, usually the most beautiful of early access or something alpha games, like which coming inside, like it can be added during the with already community support, and it's like this kind of, I guess, beautiful about also PC gaming, not console gaming. So the community also go like coming inside and sometimes also modify the game, like, and it's like becoming more popular because of modifying. So.
Yeah, definitely.
So you say crowdfunding is a good idea in 2019 if you have really.
Depending on how you use it.
If you just put inside like your game to Kickstarter, it will not work. You need to have like some advertisement campaign outside of the Kickstarter, for example, Facebook,
and that also gives you very interesting information, right? So, so basically, for example, the return on investment I got on advertising was like 1,000%. It was really high and really good. And that is return on investment for a game that isn't even in early access, like which is super early and like objectively probably insecure if it will ever get finished. I mean, I don't think it is insecure, but from a public perception it is, of course. And so I think it's a really strong signal, which I got out of the campaign. And of course, like I said, like the people you get into the closed alpha and who give you very, very early feedback on what you're doing. And like I think what you want to avoid is only getting feedback from friends and colleagues and co-workers and so on, because
they personally know you and they will not give you honest opinion.
Exactly.
Yeah, I also think it's a problem, but
so getting feedback from people who actually paid money for your thing is very, very important, I think.
And another question: indie game development, it's bring some money or not? Like this, I guess it's really good question to like all the people every time asking about it. I guess because it's like you indie game developer, you bring some like a game to the market, but this game bring money or not, it's like a second thing already. Even the big publishers sometimes release the game and they don't bring the money. And they're not successful, and they like okay, but it's like a risk they have. But for you, like indie game developer, what do you think about it?
It definitely brings in money. So I'm already doing it semi-professionally, and I'm pretty confident that Kubifaktorium will be successful enough that I can make it my main job, like I said before.
And you will establish your own studio, something like that.
Well, it depends on what you mean by establish. So,
like an office or
rent
something.
an office or so.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I have an office at home, which is sufficient for most things.
I don't know. Maybe you're planning to make some huge project in VGA.
Well, we can talk about that in a year or so. How things are going. But so some piece of advice I could give somebody who wants to make his indie game commercially successful. So first of all, I think you need to really consider it a job, right? So at some point you need to stop treating it like a hobby, which means first of all you need to not make something you want for yourself, but something that other people want to buy. Right. Mm-hmm. I think for many people, I mean, you heard it before, like this, they only care about money and so on. There's like this very strong beliefs working against being commercially successful in some people, which is, I think, a problem. Then you also need to face like the business side, like administration, taxes, and contracts, and also marketing and advertising. It definitely didn't come easy to me. But it's super important to consider these aspects if you want to be commercially successful later on. But also sort of analyzing your own strengths and weaknesses and figuring out how to cover the weaknesses and critically looking at your game and figuring out what you need to do in order to make it better.
So basically, like Kubifaktorium already bring you some money, like at least 20,000 or something. So,
yeah.
And you think it will be success? Do you planning? I guess I skipped this question, but what do you think about this Epic Game Store?
The Epic Game Store?
Because I heard about this news, like they take a royalty 15% and Steam take a royalty 30%, I guess, Steam or something. They now change the policy also, Steam, so they reduce a bit, I guess.
But not for indie developers.
What?
Yeah, no.
Why?
It's only for large publishers, they get more.
Do you planning to release in Epic Games Store?
So, I think it's good that the Epic Games Store is there. I think competition is very important. Yeah. I think the share Steam takes at the moment, which I think is the same share Google and Apple take, is too high. I think they earn a lot of money, which many developers need. So I think it is very good that there is competition. Now, that is the developer perspective, of course. Like from a player perspective, I can see that the Epic Game Store is lacking a lot of features that people want. And I also I can sort of see how people are angry at their aggressive policy, like buying exclusives and so on. But at the same time, you cannot deny that it is sort of successful, right? Yeah. I mean, we have good old games for a long time, which are always seen as the good guys, but when they released this Witcher card game, they went to Steam a week later because they didn't sell enough on good old games. Yeah. On the other hand, like what I read about Metro Exodus, and I think the new Anno game is coming to Epic Games.
Ubisoft games now. Coming.
I mean, if it works, that's great. I mean, it will be better for all of us in the end, because like
maybe Steam will just reduce some commission.
That would also be good. I mean, people always say like, oh, Steam has like cloud synced achievements and it has this and this trading cards and so on. Yeah, but if you buy a $50 game, you are paying $10 just for these features, if you consider it like that. And if people were willing to pay $10 for those features, I guess most would be not. So I think an interesting solution, which is probably against the Steam terms of service, would be that you, for example, offer a game for $40 on the Epic Game Store and for $50 on Steam. So then the consumer could decide. I think that would be a good way.
It will be then just visible with commission and so on.
Yeah, I don't think it's allowed, but I think it would be a good way for people to put their money where they want.
Anyway, I also think competition is good. Now it's like a lot of stores over there. This Discord store and Humble store and Epic Games store and Good Old Games and Steam. All of them. Good Old Games, okay. You go over there to buy some good old game.
Yeah. So from my perspective, every platform I add, adds a little bit of more administrative overload. Right? I have to deploy to these platforms. I have to check the discussion boards and bug reports and so on. So I have to do all this administrative stuff and so on. So adding a new store is more work in the short term. So currently I only plan Steam and itch.io. But possibly I will add Epic Games Store later on. It depends. I haven't really contacted them yet if they're interested. And
but like I just heard, for your information, they have not like in Steam, they manually checking.
Yeah, I know. So they want to match the influx of players to the influx of games, which makes sense.
Actually Apple Store doing right now.
At the same time, I think many people are criticizing Steam for being very open and allowing everything on the store. But at the same time, they have established many genres like visual novels, which probably would have never been there if everything had to go through a publisher or if everything was hand-selected by people who think they know the market or something. So, I don't know.
From my perspective, it's just time to change. Like for Steam, for example, they're good, and I don't understand outrage from the players about adding a new store. It's like, okay, you can live with it. Like a Metro will release after 1 year in Steam, you can buy it over there.
I think it is about to just become a meme. People being angry about that big game. So, every time I'm on Facebook, I see 5 posts every day I'm not buying X because it's screw those developers. And but you can see the reaction from the people from answering is getting progressively more. Well, then don't buy it. Nobody cares.
Yeah. So, Blitz. Short questions, not necessarily short answers. Which game do you play right now?
Currently, Sekiro. Shadow's Die Twice, it's so good. It's insanely good. The combat feels so amazing. The environment art is great. And I love From Software games in general.
Which platform do you prefer to play?
PC.
In Sekiro you play PC.
Yeah.
So
I do have a PlayStation 4, but
you play Bloodborne also.
Actually I bought the PlayStation for Bloodborne, for Bloodborne and Resogun, I think, and I think I have Neo on it, but primarily for Bloodborne. It was worth it, I could argue, but
This question I already asked about Epic Games Store, and it was a huge discussion. Best game ever. All time. Doesn't matter.
So I'm a bit biased, so I would also say Sekiro at the moment. But I think there are so many great games. It's hard to me to really say. I've played a lot of Factorio. As a kid, I played The Settlers and Battle Isle a lot. I think there's so many great games out there. But at the moment, Sekiro was the first game in a very long time which I finished and immediately wanted to play again. So usually when I finish a game, I'm like, that's done. It was a great time, but it's time to move on. But
no time for that.
This time, no time for that. So,
worst game ever.
Yeah, probably the early games I made myself, like the Scanline, Visual Basic, Planet Conquering game. Yeah. I also, when I played Battle Isle 2 a lot, I tried to make my own Battle Isle. And it's just a user interface, and not even a complete file. So it's so broken. Now looking back at it, what was I thinking, right? But yeah, I think those are definitely the worst games.
And the last question, if you're facing Gabe Newell, what you will say to him?
Gabe Newell. I would probably somehow try to convince him to give me front page exposure time, like get the game on the recommended games for a day or so. It's insane, like this is how much exposure and visibility, how important it is nowadays. So,
Yeah.
like probably just one day would probably be enough for me to retire, make games and for the rest of my life. So that would be a lucky break, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Thank
for
you.
the interview.
Thank you.